A lot of you who know me have heard the story before. I was very, very profoundly influenced by drugs and by crime. And I knew at that time that I either needed to completely turn my life around, or I was going to end up either in jail, where I'd already spent the night in jail at that time, or I was going to die. When I was 19 years old, Joe Putnam, a car dealer in Burlingame, California, shared with me a piece of advice that changed my life. It's the single most important piece of advice anyone's ever given me. And in the first minute of this video, I'm going to share with you that very piece of advice. And if you can hang with me for just 2 minutes longer, I'll show you how to implement that very piece of advice into your own life. And if you have a few minutes longer still, I'm going to share with you the amazing story about how that piece of advice came to be. When I was 19 years old, Joe Putnam, who owned Putnam Mazda in Burlingame, California, gave me the single best piece of advice I've ever been given in my life. And I grabbed it, and it changed my life. And if you grab it, it's going to change your life as well. Never set a goal unless achieving it changes you. And never begin the journey unless you're willing to commit 1 year. When Joe Putnam gave me this piece of advice, I grabbed hold of it, and it changed my life. And if you grab hold of it, it's going to change your life too. Never set a goal unless achieving it changes you. And never begin the journey unless you're willing to commit 1 year. Let me put that into practice. I'm a little bit heavy and I want to lose 10 pounds. That's a horrible goal. The reason is, what if I only lose 9 pounds? Am I a failure? What if I lose 12 pounds but then I gain the weight all back? Am I a failure again? It's a recipe for depression. Set this goal instead. I am going to go to the gym every single day for 1 hour for a year. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if it's cold. I don't care what the story is. I'm going to go to the gym for 1 hour every day for a year. And at the end of that year, the people who work in that gym are going to come to me for advice. If you set that goal, you will have new friends, new experiences, a new life. You will be a completely different person 1 year from now than you are today. The 10 pounds, the weight loss just comes along for the ride. Never set a goal unless achieving that goal changes you. And never begin the journey unless you're willing to commit 1 year. Now let's put that into practice. Say you're a little bit heavy and you say, I have a goal. I want to lose 10 pounds. That's an awful goal. The reason is, what if you only lose 9 pounds? Are you a failure? How about if you lose 12 pounds, but you gain all the weight back? Are you a failure still? Set this goal instead. For the next year, I'm going to go into the gym for 1 hour a day. I'm going to become such a gym rat that at the end of 1 year, people who work at that gym are going to come to me for advice. You set that goal, you'll have new friends, new acquaintances, new experiences. You'll be an entirely different person with an entirely different outlook at life. The weight, it just comes off as part of the experience. The benefits last forever because the person you've become is simply different than the person you were before. Sales. Sales is no different than anything else. Sales, way too often, we set some arbitrary number. 16 sales, 6 sales, $100,000 in volume. Okay, but what if I only sell $90,000 in volume? Am I a failure? What if I sell $120,000 in volume, but some of it cancels. It's a recipe for depression. Set this goal instead. I'm going to invest an hour a day, every day. It doesn't matter if I'm sick. It doesn't matter if I don't feel right. And I'm going to invest that hour in me and my craft and my business and what I do for a living. I'm going to learn how this product changes lives. I'm going to learn how this product changes my life. I'm going to know every single detail about this product, about this brand, about this company, about me, about what I do for a living. And I'm going to know it so comprehensively that a year from now, people 2 and 3 levels above me are going to come to me for advice. The numbers just come along for the ride. Say you're in sales or some other type of job with measurable goals each month. You say to yourself, gosh, I haven't been hitting the numbers lately, and so my hope is that I hit a larger objective this month. I'm going to set some arbitrary number, and that's going to be my goal for the month. That's a terrible goal. You want to set a goal that's going to change your life. Set this goal instead. I'm going to dedicate 1 hour of my day every day for a year. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care what's going on around me. I don't care what's happening in my life. 1 hour per day for 1 year. Doing everything I can to learn more about my craft, my business, the product that I sell, or the product that I represent. I'm going to know how it affects people's lives, how it can enhance people's lives. I'm going to know how my business has changed people's lives and how this product can be a valuable part of your life too. I'm going to be such an expert in what I do and who I do it for and how I do it that a year from now, people 2 and 3 levels above me are going to come to me for advice. When that happens, do you have to worry about your career trajectory? Absolutely not. Promotions? Not a problem. And hitting numbers that used to be impossible, now just come along for the ride. 19 years old. Very likely the lowest point in my life. A lot of you who know me have heard the story before. I was very, very profoundly influenced by drugs and by crime. And I knew at that time that I either needed to completely turn my life around, or I was going to end up either in jail, where I'd already spent the night in jail at that time, or I was going to die. And I went to a motivational seminar, and at the end of the motivational seminar, I knew I needed to go to college. And I had a problem. I didn't have 1 penny. I had good grades, so I got accepted to college, but I did not have any money to pay for it. And so I decided I was going to sell cars. I was going to sell Mazdas. And I went to the Mazda dealership in Redwood City, California. And they said, we'd love to hire you, but we don't hire college students. And I didn't know what to do. And so I drove north and I went to another Mazda dealership, Putnam Mazda in Burlingame. And the general manager, Tom, said, we'd love to hire you, but we don't hire college students. However, if you'd like an interview, come back tomorrow, which was Tuesday. So I did. And when I came back tomorrow, Tom said, darn it, I'm so busy today that I can't interview you, but if you come back tomorrow, I promise you that I'll interview you. So I came back tomorrow, Wednesday. And the receptionist said, you're the guy who's here to see Tom. Darn it, he's in a meeting for several hours, and he will not be done until much later. And he said if you could come back tomorrow, he would interview you. So I came back tomorrow, which is Thursday. And just as I'm walking in the door, Tom's walking out of the door. And, oh, I'm so sorry, kid. I got a million things I got to do. You know what? If you come back tomorrow, no joke. So I came back tomorrow, Friday, and Tom said, kid, I was just trying to blow you off. But if you're this persistent with me, then maybe you'll be this persistent with customers. So come on upstairs, let's do some paperwork. So we do some paperwork. I come downstairs, there's a couple mulling around in the showroom floor. And husband and wife, gentleman says, you work here? And I said, I think so. And he looks at me like I'm the biggest idiot who ever lived. What do you mean, you think so? And he goes, well, let me ask you this. Do you know where the cars are? And I said, I think they're outside. And he looks at his wife. The kid thinks they're outside. Where do you else think you think they might be? You think they might be up on the roof? I don't know. And so he goes, let me ask you this. And so he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a piece of newspaper. And on that piece of newspaper is an advertisement for a car, Mazda 626 LX automatic for $11,488. Won't forget that for the rest of my life. And I look at it and I go, oh, there's like this number, like a serial number or stock number or something like that. They put those on the windshield. I was so happy because I knew a thing. And so, and I grab the newspaper thing and we go right out the showroom floor doors and it's right there. And the salespeople, it's the easiest product to show because it's what everybody's coming to see. So they just leave it right there so they can drive it. But the color's ugly. That's why it's still available, and the salespeople are lazy and they never park it back. And so it just happens to be right there, and the guy goes, oh, maroon? It's so ugly. No wonder it's so cheap. And the wife goes, I don't know, it's not maroon, it's burgundy. I like burgundy. Burgundy's okay. And he goes, I'm never going to buy a maroon car, ever. And she goes, well, you don't need to worry about it because it's for me and I like it, so I want to get it. And so I had my first sale. And I take my crumpled up newspaper and I go to the front desk. They call it the tower in the car business. And the owner, Joe Putnam, his son is named Kent Putnam. And Kent Putnam, I believe, is the general manager there to this very day. And Kent Putnam's, I walk up and I say, sir, I've got these customers and they'd like to buy this car. And he goes, oh, which one of our dealerships do you work at? And I said, this one. What makes you think you work at this one? Oh, Tom just hired me. Tom hired you without consulting me. I think so. All available salespeople in the sales desk, please. Piped over the PA system throughout the whole dealership. And so all the salespeople come. I've got a deal. It was their first sale in 2 days. They'd blanked the prior 2 days. And everybody at that dealership hated me for a year. I had no friends at that dealership whatsoever, and which was good. It kept me focused, and I tried really, really hard. I wasn't that good though. I only sold about 9 cars a month. That's not a lot in the car business. I was kind of middle of the road at the Mazda store. And so every month, on the first of the month, Joe Putnam would rent out a ballroom at the local hotel and have all his salespeople come together, and he had a great big long table, and it was always the same. He'd ask you how many you were going to sell. And so Daniel, how many marks on the board? 14, Joe. Bobby, how many marks on the board? 16, Joe. And so he'd go all the way around. And on this one, the one nuance with this meeting is that our top salesman, Jerry, was being promoted from the floor to the manager. Jerry sold 20 cars a month. Really, really nice guy. Everybody liked him. He sold a lot of cars. That's why he was being promoted. But Jerry was horrible to me. He was always putting me down. He was always making me feel small. He was always, in some way, whether it was my shoes or how I sold or something, he went to a lot of trouble to make me feel terrible every day of the year. And so as it came around to me, it was really getting me worked up. I was really bummed that Jerry was going to be my manager, and it was making me mad. And so as Mr. Putnam comes around, Tunney, how many marks on the board? I stand up. And everyone's like, what the heck are you standing up for? And I go, Mr. Putnam, sir, I don't know how many cars I'm going to sell this month, but I do know this. I'm going to sell more than Jerry. And everyone's like, oh, wow, you know, what's up? The kid just challenged our top guy. Shots fired. So midway through the month, unfortunately, I'm still at just my 9 cars, right? But it's a little bit different. I'm at my 9 cars by about the 14th of the month. Jerry has cratered. The whole attention of the kid challenging him and the kid being ahead of him on the board was wearing him out. And he was only at 2.5 cars midway through the month. And he decided to, you know what, end the challenge. I need to practice for my management role 2 weeks from now, and I don't have time for all of this stuff. When Joe Putnam found out about that, he was ecstatic. He was thrilled that some 19-year-old not only challenged his top person, but took him down. And so he wanted to spend the day with me to get to know me. More important than that, he had just bought this $120,000 Mercedes, and he wanted to drive it around and show everybody that he had this expensive new car. And so this was his excuse. But he took me to his tailor and got me all threaded up with new duds. And to this day, I'm a big fan of expensive clothes because of the day Mr. Putnam spent with me. And then right up the hill from Burlingame is Hillsborough, which is a bunch of movie stars and stuff like that live in there. And so he took me up to this mansion that's the mansion of all mansions. This mansion was so extravagant that the owner of it had taken a 1910 era choo-choo train car and used it as a hallway between one living room and a salon or something like that. And he had to walk through this train car to get to it. And the train car was all decked up like it was 1910. And so mannequins wearing the period pieces, serving people, wearing the yesteryear clothes and all of that. And Mr. Putnam sat down at one of the tables and sat me down. And he gave me those words of advice. He was so thrilled that I was the kid who couldn't even hold a manager accountable 5 times to give me the interview that he had promised, and turned into the kid that chose out his top guy and beat him. And he told me, never set a goal unless achieving it changes you. And never start the journey unless you're willing to commit 1 year. Kid, never set a goal unless achieving it changes you. And never begin the journey unless you're willing to commit a year. And I hope your goal is something that's going to change your life. And if you're willing to commit 1 year to it, I promise you it will. Thank you so much for your time.